The Sales Maven podcast is just about to hit its 200th episode. Can you believe it? I certainly can't. And to make this episode extra special, here is an opportunity for you to ask me a question live. This can be a sales-related question or just something you've always wanted to ask me. You can apply to be a part of the 200th episode by going to yoursalesmaven.com/ask Nikki. And I look forward to hearing your questions and I look forward to talking to you.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki Rausch, will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to up-level your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips, strategies, and techniques to master your sales conversation. Today's episode is a sales success story with a former client of mine. I'm super excited to introduce you to Janna Lundquist. Janna, welcome to the show, friend.
Nikki, it is so good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I am delighted to have you and super excited for us to jump into the success stuff. But before we do that, would you share with everybody a little bit about you and your business and what you do, who you serve, all that good stuff?
Wonderful. Thank you, Nikki. So my name is Janna Lundquist. I run Janna Lundquist Consulting based in Missoula, Montana, but really serving clients all over the country and at times all over the world. People call me the team whisperer, and I absolutely love helping teams and individuals tackle their difficult collaboration and supervision challenges. And so I get to do that in team settings like strategic planning or facilitation of important meetings, and in one-on-one executive coaching.
Yeah, I love it. And so is there a particular type or size of company that tends to be an ideal client for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nikki. Typically, on the leadership team side of it, it's an organization that is large enough that it does have a leadership team in place, right? And that can be a team of really between 4 and a dozen leaders who represent various parts of the organization. I have found over time navigating different sectors like the business world that I worked in before, some governmental agencies and nonprofits as well, that a lot of the dynamics are similar between those kinds of organizations. They just tend to have that leadership team in place.
Yeah. And so when somebody brings you in, for instance, for a strategic planning meeting, what is a typical role for you? Like, what are you doing in that?
In a typical strategic planning situation, I get a phone call from someone in an organization and they say, it's really time that we got this leadership team together to take stock and to make some plans about how we're going to discern and prioritize moving forward. And so we do quite a bit of work ahead of time, sort of designing the agenda or the process that might be right for that particular team. And then on the day of or the days of, it can be on Zoom. Oftentimes I like to be in person for those true high stakes situations, if you will. I'm sort of the MC. I'm running the show. I'm keeping people on track. I'm making sure that the discussion stays on topic. And I sometimes like to say, I seem nice, but I'm not that nice. And so I try to, in a really polite and oftentimes humorous way, make sure that we are hearing from everyone in the group and staying at the altitude that's really necessary at sessions like that, so that by the end of the day, or the end of the process, we have the desired outcomes that that team needs. And oftentimes the desired outcomes include a plan of some sort or a decision-making tool. And oftentimes what I hear in the moment is, oh my goodness, Janna, thank you so much for doing this. this was better than anything I could have expected. And the fact that we were able to be in this room together and let our guard down and have these challenging, maybe touchy conversations is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine. And then with the executive coaching, what does that look like for you? What's the commitment? Is it something like, are you doing one-off strategy sessions with people, or is this a long-term commitment, or how does that work?
That's a great question. People do them so many different ways, right? What I have found works really well with the clients that I work with is they tend to be either the leaders of an organization, right? A CEO or executive director or founder, or they are emerging leaders within an organization. So they may be sort of an up and comer that the other leaders have their eye on, or they may be a new member of that leadership team that I kind of described being in that room together. We typically do sort of I provide a questionnaire up front to get a sense of their priorities. And then we usually do engagements in groups of 3 75-minute sessions. I find that 3 to be a really magical number, where we're able to, within a pretty efficient period of time, really tackle some, what I often call important but not urgent topic, right? Something that really matters to them or their development, but isn't something that necessarily has a deadline to it. And through that process, I'm able to support them and sort of their baby steps or their mini commitments along the way. So by the time we conclude that third session, they're really able to feel a sense of transformation and accomplishment and progress that they knew they wanted to make or wanted to have, but they just weren't able to get there on their own.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So back in 2018, I had to go back and look this up this morning. So back in 2018, you flew from Montana to Seattle and we did your VIP day.
Yes,
and
we did.
I remember it so clearly. I remember which room we were in the conference room, and getting to spend that time with you. It was such a delight. And what's been so fun for me is to watch your progress and get to, from a very outside perspective, over these last 5 years, to see how your business has grown. And you have been so gracious over the years to touch base with me and share how you're using things that we worked on and how it's, how you've been able to implement. And so I asked you, because you left me this really beautiful message a couple of weeks ago, hey, do you want to come on the podcast and share about this? Because I think it's important that people recognize that there is real advantage to learning selling skills, because it's something that will take you and carry you on for years and years and years and years. So whether you're learning it on your own or whether you're learning it from a sales coach or however you're learning it, but you have done it so brilliantly, and you've been great to keep in touch with me over the years and share the different things. So I'm super interested, and I hope the audience is too. Would you be willing to share what are some of the things that you got out of our VIP work together that has continued to sustain you and you've implemented? And so I'll stop talking now.
Absolutely. Can I pause to rave about my VIP day experience with you first?
Yes, sir, certainly.
Nikki, I remember it so well as well. It was right around Halloween, rather,
Yes.
in 2018, like you mentioned. And it was a big deal for me to decide to focus on sales, to make that investment in you, to take this, this air travel. I think I flew in and flew out, maybe even that same day.
I think you did.
And
yeah.
It felt so special. And so I guess I would just say I felt so special to have your full focus that day. You'd asked all of my preferences ahead of time. Nothing makes me more excited than my favorite snacks, right? So you'd pre-ordered lunch. You had my favorite snacks and chocolate and protein in the room, right? Which I just thought was such a beautiful touch. And you really met me where I was, which I think is the beauty of a VIP day, right? You're not presenting a workshop from the front of a room. You're really, we sat at that table in the co-working space and really went through exactly where my business was at that time and what would be most useful to me in terms of applying your processes to my business. And so thank you for doing that. I also find, as a coach and a consultant, as the team whisperer, right, I get the most gratification when people follow up after the fact, right? The day of stuff is great, but when it is a month or a year, or even, as my business grows in length or lifetime, a few years, to know that my work has impacted others just makes my heart sing. And so I really value doing that for other people like you. And so, my gratitude is very real in those moments where I think, wow, how did that go well? Oh yeah, I used that tip or that skill or that mindset that Nikki Rausch taught me at that VIP day, several years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And it's a delight, again, to know that, I always say implementers get results. And you've been such a great implementer and have really taken this and made it yours. It's very much, this is how you show up in your conversations and in the rooms. And it's really fun to watch. And it is a delight. And you are incredibly good at giving that feedback even years later. And I'm so grateful for it.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that.
So share some of the things that you find that are coming up over and over again for you that you've been able to implement and how it's impacted your business, if you would.
Absolutely. I really have three main anecdotes that I would love to share with you about how your work continues to implement my business. The first one relates to buying signals in social situations. I find that I am pretty aware and paying attention and comfortable, like if it's official work situation, to hear that buying signal and respond to it quickly, promptly, that sort of thing. I'll give you a little snippet of the most recent thing that happened to me. We are so blessed here in Missoula to have the Missoula Children's Theater, which helps students from around the world put on plays in a week. And my two kids had performed a play in a week over spring break earlier this spring here in Missoula. And part of the cast was the daughter of a former coworker. He and I have sort of seen each other here and there over the years. We've had a little bit of social connection and that sort of thing. But we were literally in the lobby of this theater waiting for our kids to take off their costumes, gather up their stuff for the week, and go home with us after their performances that day. And he starts asking me about, okay, so you're doing this consulting work, this coaching work, and he asked me some sort of question about, so what do you think is the difference between management and supervision? He goes, I really want to be a good manager, but I don't want to be a micromanager, right? In the moment, we had a little time to kill, literally we were just waiting around. And so I asked a few more questions. He shared kind of a particular team member that he was struggling to strike that balance with, to set expectations without feeling like he was being overbearing. So we visited a little bit more about that. His co-parent said, and now you should send him an invoice, and we kind of all laughed. And then we went on with our evening and our weekend. And it stuck in my brain, Nikki, right? And if I had truly been delivering on your teachings, I would have done something in that moment. Like, oh my goodness, this sounds like a really good topic for executive coaching. Do you have your calendar with you? We could maybe talk more about this, when we have our full focus or something like that. But I didn't do that. But here's the other thing I also didn't do. I didn't beat myself up so much that I let the lead go altogether. Okay. Yeah. So I think it may have been over a week later, Nikki, that I went, okay, do I have his phone number? I have his phone number. And I sent him a text and I said, hey, it was so fun seeing you guys at the play the other night. Did your daughter enjoy herself? And then I said, if you want to strengthen your management of the team member we talked about in an actual executive coaching session, let me know. I'd love to help. Okay. So there I was, kind of finally following up. And then
issuing that invitation. I love it so
much.
Yes,
that's the invitation, right?
That's right.
And very promptly he said, I might be interested in some management tips. He has a really seasonal business, and so he needed a little time for his brain to be able to be ready for this. But we are now 2 sessions through that 3-session executive coaching engagement for him, and it's going beautifully. And it's been such a good reminder to me that those buying signals or interest comes from all sorts of people that we know in all different realms of our life, in all different situations, right. And that it's, of course, best to do it in the moment, to respond and to offer that invitation. But even to goof up a little bit and to do it later can still yield really wonderful outcomes. And I'm just so delighted to be able to work with him and support him in his current leadership challenges and opportunities.
I love it. I love it. That's so great. You did such a great job.
Thank you.
Such a great job. Were there others that you wanted to share, or that was the?
Yeah, so that was the main one. I think that's the one that I reached out to you about on Voxer. The second one is that you have since that time said, well, Janna, you really need to have a lead magnet or some free offers that are letting people consume your content and understand your point of view better. And I just, for many different reasons, I haven't done that very often. But this May, actually, we ended up having it in June. I've really taken advantage of this email list that I've collected over the years, and I'm gradually providing useful content to them. And I decided to sort of design and host a free webinar about designing a really impactful summer, both personally and professionally. A lot of the leaders that I know, they have so much they want to get done at work. And yet you don't want to wake up on September 1st going, man, I didn't have any fun this entire season, right? How did this go?
Yeah.
And so I sent a couple of emails planting seeds about the content that would be in the webinar. And very quickly, a client who I had worked with in a team setting, right? She had called me and hired me for a facilitation event. She replied quickly. I didn't even know for sure that she was on my email address or email list, rather, Nikki. But she replied and she said, I don't pay attention to things in a webinar. Can I just hire you to coach me through this?
Yes.
And of course, I said, well, yes, you can, right? And here's how we would do that. So for me, the takeaways there are, 1, putting myself out there and providing useful content. 2, you might say I was offering the invitation to learn more from me through the webinar.
Yes.
And then 3, there's probably nothing more obvious in terms of a buying signal than the prompt reply going, oh my gosh, I need you. And don't make me wait for a webinar. I need your eyes and your brain and your heart on me and my situation, right? As soon as possible.
Yeah. So another really great lesson is continue to put offers out into the market in whatever context that you choose, because it will still attract people to even other offers from you because you're staying front of mind. So it's super exciting.
Yes, that's a really good point. We shouldn't overly categorize the people that we know or that we've even worked with before, because they can surprise you in terms of how they might want our support moving forward.
Yes. I still get surprised when people show up and they're like, I'm just ready to be a VIP client. And I'm like, really? Like, that's awesome. And sometimes it's the people I least expect, which is even better, right? So super fun. All right, good. Was there anything else? Because I did want to offer you, I know you have a question for me. And so because you were so gracious to come on the podcast and share about it, I want to make sure I get to your question.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. My third thing is really quick.
Yeah.
I always pull out my phone when I am catching the buying signal and say, do you happen to have your calendar on you? It would be great. Would you like to get something scheduled right now? So that's something of yours that I use all the time. And then relatedly, if we haven't scheduled something right together or in the moment, I love your template for providing 3 potential chunks of time when a meeting or a call or a Zoom session could take place. And your line, feel free to suggest a different day and time, and I will do my best to be available. I use that all the time, daily, and it works so well to go from, oh, we should probably meet sometime or have lunch or whatever, to, yes, let's do that. Would any of these 3 days work? And maybe a couple of restaurant choices, as well as if you'd like to send a different day and time. Basically, I'll sure try to be there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That makes me even happier. You're doing so well. So many things are going so great for you. Now, I know before we hit the record, you had said, like, I have a question for you. And I was like, let's save it for on air, because I'm super happy to offer some little bit of coaching that I think might support you. So let's hear the question and see where we go from there.
Yes. Thank you so much, Nikki. So I feel really fortunate to have a pair of team members who are overseas in the Netherlands and South Africa. And they have all the strengths that I don't have. And we're a really wonderful team that gets to work together. We are really at a point in my business where it's time we sort of have the bandwidth and the attention to reconnect with former clients and just sort of like former colleagues or people I knew, especially pre-COVID. Like I feel there is a gap, especially like in that 2018, 2019 time period, where I haven't done a great job thus far on keeping up with those people. And so we're thinking about this plan to individually, of course, reach out by email to maybe someone I worked with them individually or with their team. They hired me in 2018, and we maybe like haven't run into each other in person or interacted much or really like been in touch much since then. I'm thinking about how to strike the balance. First of all, if email is the right method, and striking the balance between sort of being friendly and providing conversation in that email, but not getting too long, versus making it feel either terse or sudden or jarring to that person who I think probably had a pretty good experience with me, but like I said, hasn't had my name or my face in their mind for a while. How would you do that well?
So I would do that. I would start with an email. That's the way I would start, just because I think it's an easier platform versus, and it's something that'll allow your team to do on your behalf.
Yes.
So I think an email of a check-in with them. And there's a couple things I would suggest kind of in the context of the email. The first thing would be to reference, it's been a few years since we last connected back in, and put some context to it, right? Because if it's been 5 years, they might be like, wait, what is this about? Not that they forgot you, but it's nice to kind of give people a lot has
happened in the past 5 years, right?
Yeah. It's nice to give them a little refresher. So something around the lines of, it's been a while since we last connected in 2019 when we did your strategic planning day. How have you been? So I would ask that as a question. And then I would actually ask another question here. I would ask, and we could play around with this question of something that feels authentic to you, Janna. So you could ask something like, what has been the biggest highlight for you this last year? Or what is some big change that has happened since we last spoke? So it could be that as the question. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to answer the question. For me, the big change has been, so that's the like building the rapport and the friendly piece of it. And then, and you tell me whether or not you're open to doing this, but my suggestion to you would be, would you have any interest at all in jumping on a quick call just to catch up, find out what's going on with you, see if there's any way I can be a resource to you. And then in case you like this idea, here are 3 possible times you know this language. Looking forward to your response. So it's fairly short. You want to make sure you put lots of white space between these things that I'm, these sections that I'm talking about. And then see how it lands, see how people are responding to it. Now, your answer to the question should only be about 2 sentences, 3 at the most. So you don't get to write a big paragraph about your, big change or, whatever your answer is. It needs to be succinct, but honest and vulnerable, if you want to go there, that allows them to go, oh, Janna's being really authentic with me. And so I will feel comfortable to be really authentic back.
Yes, that's so beautiful, because I was both hesitant to send something too brief or too cold feeling, right? And also, if I get an email that is 5 paragraphs long, even if it's from someone I absolutely adore or like really could use, some help or just friendship from, I sort of go, well, I should wait to reply until I can write 5 paragraphs back. And then sometimes that doesn't happen. So this seems like a really beautiful way to make it feel warm, to give it that context, to like gently offer sort of this reconnecting call or, chat in a way that feels appropriate given the bit of time that's passed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, let me know how that goes. I love to hear from you.
I will definitely let you know how that goes.
And thank you so
Nikki,
much
for that question.
Oh, absolutely. I'm delighted to be able to offer that. And thank you for coming on the podcast. Now, for people listening who may need some more Janna in their life, need some strategic planning, need some executive coaching, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. The best place to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn. It's JANNA LUNDQUIST. And I'm there both personally and Janna Lundquist Consulting as well.
And we'll have Janna's contact information in the show notes too, so you can reach out to her. Connect with her regardless of whether you know that you immediately need to work with her, because she is a wonderful, lovely, full-hearted, kind person. And I just can't say enough nice things about you. I am delighted to know you. It is an honor to have been able to work with you and still be able to be in touch with you this many years later. And I just think the world of you, my friend.
Well, Nikki, the feeling is absolutely mutual. To say ditto feels a little short, but you are such a resource and gift to so many of us leaders and entrepreneurs. And I spread the Sales Maven goodness whenever I can.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And for you, the listener, thank you for being here. I hope that this episode inspired you to make sure that you're being on the lookout for those buying signals, that you're issuing invitations. And even if you've missed it, it's okay to go back and issue that other invitation. And also, Janna mentioned this 3 times language and the importance of it. And I know I've shared that on a podcast before. So that is crucial to your success and will continue to support you year after year after year as you continue to scale your business. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I wish you continued success.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.
The Sales Maven podcast is just about to hit its 200th episode. Can you believe it? I certainly can't. And to make this episode extra special, here is an opportunity for you to ask me a question live. This can be a sales-related question or just something you've always wanted to ask me. You can apply to be a part of the 200th episode by going to yoursalesmaven.com/ask Nikki. And I look forward to hearing your questions and I look forward to talking to you.